Hi, welcome back to another episode of Bob and Friends. I'm Bob with two of my great friends, Kim Angeli and Jeff West, both outstanding entrepreneurs and salespeople in their day, now bringing their wisdom to so many other people. Jeff West is now an author, aside from being a speaker, and he just recently won his sixth book award in just 3 books, and he has another one coming out pretty soon with the great Bill Gates. Kim Angeli just published her first book called My Daily Gratitude Journal. Be sure and check out both of these outstanding friends, jeffcwest.com and Kim Angeli, angelwithanI.com. Hi, guys. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Well, I am so excited about today's show. The guest is one of my favorite people.
Mine too.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. It's difficult to be a teenager. I'm 67. I remember it was difficult for me to be a teenager. And I had great parents and lots of support. And it was still, there's the gawkiness and the lack of confidence and the trying to fit in and, all these things. And now it seems there's, with the internet now, I guess the bullying has gone to a whole new level now. That's kind of 10x at this point with the internet and all these things. So, plus, a lot of kids just don't really have the tools to be able to navigate their lives and their teen years. Fortunately, there are people, though, like our guest, one of my favorite people, by the way, Derrick Kinney. He's a well-known former financial advisor, and he's an author. He launched a website and project that can really give teens a decided advantage in this world, help them navigate their teen years. And Jeff and Kim also help them become really more effective adults.
I wish I'd had somebody like Derrick when I was a teenager, because I made about as many mistakes as one can possibly make and not get in really bad trouble. So I am really excited about Derrick's work in this area.
Yeah, me too. I'm just glad to still be here. And I'm glad I didn't have mobile phones. I had a roll of quarters in my Honda Prelude and a phone booth I would stop at to call my mother at midnight to say I'm not going to be home on time. So yes, I wish I had a Derrick actually when I was raising my daughter Samantha, possibly. And I'm just glad that I didn't grow up with the mobile phones. It's a really big thing in the teenage is the mobile phone is really a big thing. So it changes the dichotomy.
And I know you, but guys, you two both did wonderful jobs with your children. Wonderful, Kim, a young adult, and Jeff, to adults with kids of their own. And I know that you have some great stories about that. Maybe we'll have you share one of those later. Derrick Kinney is widely considered one of the most engaging and down-to-earth money and business experts in the country. He built one of America's top financial firms and helped countless clients become millionaires. Then he sold it to give everyone access to his middle class to millionaire playbook. As America's financial educator, he's a sought-after guest on top podcasts and go-to expert on Fox, CNN, CNBC, and Yahoo Finance. He's also the Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author of Good Money Revolution. Terrific book. His websites, and this is where we're going to discuss his new project, is simpleteensuccess.com, and his regular website is derrickkinney.com. And I know our awesome producers Joseph and Allison are putting that in the chat and on the screen and so forth. So you'll be able to see this during the show. Please go check out those sites. So Derrick Kinney, come on up. Where are you, my friend? There you are.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here.
Good
Yeah.
morning.
So great to see you. Congratulations on this new project. And I know you've been thinking about this and devising it for quite a while, haven't you?
I have, Bob. First of all, Jeff, Kim, Bob, great to be with all of you. I hold all of you in such high regard. And as you were talking about me earlier, it'd be a fun episode to talk about mistakes we all made as teenagers. That could be a really cool episode there.
Yeah.
Wait, has the statute of limitations expired yet?
Do we have to record it? I'm kidding. I'm not sure about that.
I was actually thinking of writing a book called Bob and His Mistakes, and then I realized it was going to be 5 really large volumes. I put that project aside.
That's called
So
a
why?
subscription
So why are
model.
you doing? Oh, go ahead, Derek.
That's called a subscription model right there. So
Yeah, exactly. So why did you do? What's the issue now with teens? Maybe it's always been an issue, but what are you trying to help with?
Well, I went back and I thought when I was a senior in high school, I would have loved to have had a successful person's voice in my ear telling me what my bright future could look like. But nobody ever showed up. All I was told was take your history and your math and your science and life is going to be great. Well, it actually wasn't. And what I realized was I made a whole lot of mistakes. And what I began to realize was if I could just communicate better, doors would open for me. And fast forward to today, one of the things that I find, I just have a passion for investing in teenagers because what I find is you'll talk to them and it looks like it goes in one ear and out the other, but they secretly are listening. They just don't want you to know they're listening. And to crack the code, they often will just look at their phone because they don't know what to say to adults. And then their parents criticize them. And I heard this term recently. I was speaking to a group of students last week at a high school, and one person said, yeah, they call us screenagers. And that was a new term for me, this teenager that's always on their screens. And I don't fault teenagers only because they look at their screens because they don't know what else to do. And so I wanted to come up with a playbook for success for these teens that they'd actually like to follow.
Okay. And again, that's simpleteensuccess.com. And so what happens when they go to that site?
Well, first of all, what I did is the site is basically a video course that we've created. It's going to be released in the next couple days. So this audience is one of the first to know about it. And it's basically called 5 Steps to Confident Communication and Unleashed Potential. And Bob, let me tell you how this course came about. As a parent, you like to think that everything you say works and that it's gold and that your teen should just automatically, just almost like there's this angelic singing when mom or dad says something like everything's going to work. What I realized was that doesn't work, as many parents can relate to. But what I realized, the one thing that does work is when teens would come back to me and say, Mr. Kinney, when you taught this class at our school a couple years ago, and now I went to college and now I'm married and so forth, this stuff actually works. That was the list that I began to pay attention to. And a couple things, for example, let's say that there is this awkward social situation where a teen meets an adult and the teen out of courtesy says, well, Mr. West, it is so nice to meet you. And then Jeff, you happen to say to the teen, well, you may not remember this, but we met before. Well, the teen feels wonk, 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 really small, embarrassed. So the way around that is I teach the teens to say to everybody who they meet for the first time, Mr. West, it is so nice to see you. Well, it's always nice to be seen because then it makes the person you just met wonder, have we met before? It makes them wonder what's going on. And it gives the teen confidence. So all of these were simple steps. And several teens came back and said, yeah, Mr. Kinney, I used that. And it was so effective. And so what I found is if we can give teens the simple playbook, it builds their confidence one word at a time. And ultimately, those are the doors that open when adults see teens and engage with them and interact with them. It's like there's this adult secret club that when people ask, hey, do you know a teenager who could watch our house when we go on vacation, or I need an internship for this job or this opportunity, we want them to think of your teenagers.
Right.
Oh, I love that. Before I open this to Jeff and Kim, if you're watching this, feel welcome to put a question in the comment section, and we will monitor this and we will ask Derrick for you. Kim, did you have something?
Well, and I think what I was taught early on is your network determines your net worth. And my first job, and I just told my daughter who graduates in December, my first job came from a connection through of somebody I knew in college through his uncle to get my first job from Campbell Soup Sales. It wasn't an Indeed.com. Of course, that didn't exist. We went to the newspaper to find jobs. And so I graduated in a recession. And so I really worked my network to find my first job. And that's how I did it. And I actually told her, I said, your first job is probably going to come from people, like myself, your dad, Bob Berg, Jeff, who is in your network? And we've talked to her about that for a long time, but a lot of people don't understand how that works. And her peers are getting frustrated going to Indeed.com and applying for their first job and having zero results.
Yeah. What I would say to that is interesting, Kim, because that is the reality that so many teens find themselves in. And I don't fault their parents because they don't know either.
Right.
This world has changed so fast. Often parents feel frustrated because they don't have the tools to teach their teens and don't know what to do. So one of the things I like to talk to teens about is teens with a plan have a superpower. And let me tell you a quick story. So often teens will say, hey, Mr. Kinney, can I go to coffee with you? And so one senior at the local high school, he and I went to coffee together. And I was asking him, okay, so what do you want to do when you graduate? He kind of him and hawed around a little bit and talked about, I want to do real estate and I want to do this and this. I said, well, let's clarify that. What would you say your plan is? Like, what is it that you really want to do? If we were having coffee together 12 months from now, define for me your most successful year. And he began to tell me about, he wants to buy commercial real estate. He wants to develop commercial properties. And I said, okay, so we practiced knowing and telling people what his plan was. And so as we left the coffee that day, we were walking out the door, literally, God's honest truth. As we're walking out, in walks a friend of mine who is one of the top commercial real estate people in town. And in that moment, I was able to say, Jim, let me introduce you to Phil. And they met right then. And that only happened because the teenager could articulate to me what his plan was. And so what I tell teenagers now is, when you interact with an adult, always use the words, let me tell you about my plan. I've got this bold idea that I'm working on. And what it does is it automatically makes you more attractive to adults, because no teens have a plan. They're typically thought of, they're not even thinking about anything but themselves. When you say, I have a plan, it automatically engages people to want to help you. And that person has had many coffees now with that mentor. They've actually talked about doing some deals together, all because they could articulate, here's my plan.
I love that.
Awesome.
I love it. So we did have a question from Amanda Johnson. Can I ask you if your course is only relevant to US-based teens, or is it relevant to those in the UK?
Well, let me ask you this. If you want your teen to reach their full potential, it's a global concern that every parent shares. So yes, everybody can use it. And the principles are very, very simple. And to make that point, several teens have said, Mr. Kinney, and by the way, they call me Mr. Kinney, just that's what they call me. Hey, this is bingeable. They said, these sessions are each about 5 to 14 minutes long. They're video based, easy to follow worksheet, simple to implement. And what we find is it just gives teens a simple playbook. And Amanda, one thing I would tell you, that this is a common problem many teens have. So I was speaking to a group recently, and I asked them this scenario, what they would do. Let's say you're about to walk into the supermarket or the store, and you happen to see your friend's parents, but they don't see you yet. What do? Do you A, confidently walk up and say, well, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Berg, it is so nice to see you? Or do you dip into the chip aisle and hope they don't see you? 2/3 of the hands, we're dipping into the chip aisle.
Wow.
And then I ask the teens, why? And they say, well, I don't know what to say. I don't want to feel embarrassed. I don't want to look awkward. And what that tells me is, in absence of knowing a simple playbook, teens go to their phones or they dip into the chip aisle. And so instead, what we teach the teens are just a couple basic questions of always, well, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Berg, it is so nice to see you. And then you might ask a pleasantry question, how's your day today? Well, the adult is always going to ask you, always. It's just like a golden rule of adult conversation. So how's school going? And then your answer will determine whether the adventure ends right there or the adventure just begins. And the way to make it end is, oh, school's fine. Well, that's the answer adults expect. But if you say, I've got this plan, and here's what I'm most excited about. I've started a part-time job. I've got this new idea for a business. I got this class I'm really excited about. I couldn't be more excited about what's happening right now. And you have that in your pocket ready to go. The adult's going to be like, what are you talking about? You are automatically more memorable. And we know the memorable people make more money. And so teens that have a plan have a superpower. So if you say those words and then say, it was so nice to see you both, and now dip into the chip aisle to get your chips, having made a great first impression, that's how you win.
It's wonderful. Before I bring on Jeff, Amanda Johnson is a very, very successful UK-based entrepreneur who has it's the virtual assistant business, and she is a huge leader out there, very, very well respected, and she embodies everything about the go-giver that you can possibly imagine. So glad she joined, and I love what you're talking, Derrick, about confidence. That's such a key. Jeff, did you have something?
Yeah, Derrick, you and I have talked about, I was very fortunate to have some mentors in my life that helped me learn things that I wouldn't have learned at home. Not that my parents didn't try their best, but I wouldn't have learned at home just because of different styles, like how to express my love for my children. And you and I have talked about
this is
that
such
in
a
the past.
wonderful story.
And in today's time, I would like to hear you talk a little bit about what the role of a mentor or the role of some sort of trusted outside voice, because I would have never gotten that message from my parents, but this man literally changed the life of my children and my grandchildren just by how he lived. I'd love to hear you talk about that, especially in the day of TikTok like we have now.
Yeah. Jeff, a great question. Bob, when you talked about Amanda, it reminded me of a quick story I want to tell you. And that is, I think that parents who are entrepreneurs, that is one of the biggest blessings you can give your kids, because they get to see real life struggle, the real life highs, the real life lows. So when they too experience the same thing, they realize, oh, that's normal. Right. Because I saw mom and dad have the same struggle. Sure. And the thing I learned from that is I used to want to be the perfect parent, but I realized the perfect parent is the most imperfect parent. It's the one who shares, hey, can I tell you how I really screwed up today? I have gotten my kids' attention in ways by saying those words. You want to hear the biggest mistake I made today? You could have heard a pin drop. It's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so good. Dad really messed up. I can't wait to hear this story, as opposed to, let me give you some advice. And it's like the volume gets turned down. So it's crazy, crazy. So Amanda, kudos to you on all your success and what you're doing. But Jeff, it's interesting. And I remember when, you and I talked about this before. I think it's important for people to realize just the mind of the teen. And as I like to say, you can either create demand or you can channel demand. Okay. So for example, let's say that we somehow got stranded in the forest. Okay. And we were thirsty and needed to find some water. And we did happen to have a shovel with us. We need that shovel for this part of the story. Okay. So option A would be, do we start digging a trench and then wait? And when it rains at some point, now we'll have a place for the water to fill up. Or do we quickly start to run through the forest and find an existing water source? What's going to be probably the best use of our time? It'll be finding the water source. And so what I find is one of the biggest mistakes adults make is they try to think to recraft how a teen thinks, as opposed to just acknowledging here's how they think. And so an example I'd give you would be when my son was playing baseball, we gave him some special baseball lessons. And I would tell him, hey, son, do this, do this, do this. And then he wouldn't do it. It was like he didn't even hear me. But then when Coach Allen would tell him things, hey, Dad, you're not going to believe what Coach Allen told me. I'm like, what the heck? I told you those same things. Then I had to realize, okay, this is called the parent poker face. I need to master it. So then what I learned is I would simply call Coach Allen ahead of time. Hey, do you mind telling Connor this, this, and this? And then he would tell Connor, then Connor would get in the car. Hey, you're not going to believe what Coach Allen said. Dude, that is some good advice, Connor. I love that. I love Coach Allen. That's great. And so what I learned as an adult is you want to play the game with other adults. I mean, for example, if I were talking, well, let's say hypothetically, Kim might be talking to her daughter when she was younger, and it may feel like it went in one ear, not the other. But let's say that I happen to be talking to her daughter, and she was like, oh my gosh, Mr. Kinney, that is so great. Well, my daughter might do the same thing to me, but if Kim talks to her, they're not going to believe what Kim said to me. So it's this whole reciprocity of understanding the role that each of us can play kind of in the village as teens. But also it's important when I led our business club at our kids' school, I did this for about 10 years. One of the things I would do is the first day of school, and then, by the way, had a business. I just did this, twice a month, 1 hour at a time, is I would ask all the students their favorite candy. So I wrote down, Hershey bars, Reese's Pieces, Sour Patch Kids, whatever it was. And so every time they came, they knew their favorite candy would be there. And so I did some polling and I said, out of curiosity, be honest. The whole goal of this class is to be honest. How many of you were here just for the candy? Half the hands go up. I said, that's great. By the way, while you're here eating your candy, just listen and just try to pick up one simple thing that you can apply. What happened was throughout the year, it was the people who came just for the candy that often got the most out of it. And so what I learned is I was teaching them, this is like a business. You are my customers. And to make sure that you come to this class, I want to give you what you want. I might give out books. We'd give out free candy. The goal was, can I earn the right to give you good stuff to put in your head? Because it was like looking at my investments. These are all good investments. How can I help them grow?
Love it.
Wow. Couple things. First, I loved the idea about, edifying the other parent who came up with that, great advice, right? Marnie Stockman, who's the co-author with Nick Coniglio of Lead It Like Lasso. Wonderful, wonderful book on leadership. She writes and she says, parents have to tuck their ego away for that. Great strategy. And it's true, because if that parent just wants the credit, well, I told you that already. That's, of course, going to just push that person away. When you can say, hey, that's wonderful. Boy, is Ms. Johnson or Mr. Smith so wise, to say that. Wow. Now you've taken it to another level.
I love that.
Yeah. Let's go back for a couple things. I have a question to ask you next from Michael Smith. The website again that we want people to go to, and simpleteensuccess.com. So make sure if you're a parent or a grandparent, you go to that site, and what you might want to do is let some other parents that in fact, if you have if you're part of your PTA, or if you're part of just a group of parents, or you're seeing them at the ball game, start a discussion about how you can help your kids kind of as a group and really be there to support them by helping each other support them. And then tell them about this website and see if you can get people really en masse, because the more teams that we have that are really equipped with the tools. And as you can see, a lot of Derrick's advice, it's simple, but not simplistic, right? It's simple, but it's very, very powerful. So imagine how you can really equip your teens and all the other teens and really create this wonderful network of people. J. Michael Smith, he's a grandparent, and 3 of his grandchildren are on the autism spectrum. Do you have any sort of tools or any sort of advice that you have on the site regarding how to be inclusive in that regard?
So great question. I don't have, candidly, anything specific for autism, but what I would say is, how do you help your teen and your children stand out? In other words, as a business owner, I'm speaking for myself now as an entrepreneur. For some reason, I always have a deeper compassion when I see someone that has something that makes their life a little bit harder or more challenging. It's just something that I gravitate toward. And what I find is they have to work harder, but when they know the words to say, opportunities come their way. And when they can talk about, here's my plan for the future, here's what I'm excited about, people purchase passion. That's what I would say. So I don't want to pretend to know exactly your role as the parent you are right now. It sounds like you're just fabulous. But I think when you can give your teen the plan to say, always have them have something that they're excited about. Always have something that they find meaning in, because when people sense that they're excited or have a plan, it automatically enrolls them in their success.
Mm.
You know, Derrick, I have a grandson that's also on the spectrum. And I think the things you teach are going to be so great for him. He's pretty young right now, but he's already, you can tell he's extremely intelligent, but he'll struggle with socialization somewhat, and he'll struggle with communication. So the things that you're teaching, I can't wait for him to start learning that as well, because I think it's going to be super valuable for him.
You know, it's interesting because as we were talking, so we filmed this course about 6 months ago. And just outside my studio here, I've got a room where we had 13 teens come in, because it was important not just to me be talking to the wall. I wanted to have the engagement, and I wanted to see the faces of these teens and have them interact. One of the craziest things that we did is I wanted to talk about their smile. So I asked the teens, how many of you, out of curiosity, we're all being honest here, ever feel awkward when you smile? Every hand goes up in the room. And we talked about, why does it feel awkward to smile? And they said, well, because I feel like I look goofy. Like, I don't know how I look, and are people going to make fun of me? And so I had this idea. So I bought hand mirrors for all 13 teens. And so we practiced looking into the mirror so people could see what their smile looked like. And I said, part of this, you know how, now that this is going to be geared toward women, but when women take a photo, oftentimes they go to this flash pose, like they know how to put their leg and their arm. It's like you can press a button, they know how to look great. And I said, we can take a cue from that, okay? And so when teens feel confident in their smile, it increases their face value. I mean, no pun intended. So I said, let's look in the mirror, and I want you to feel like, how does your smile look? So for me, for example, this is going to sound crazy, but like if I'm on TV or I do an interview, I know if I smile and my top teeth are touching my bottom lip, that's a good smile. I know it because I've seen it. It's like muscle memory. And so teaching these teens, your smile is a great asset, and it tells people that you like them, you care about them. It makes you look more inviting, because if you just look, people think, what did I do to upset that person? It's sort of like your body language says, I don't like you. You may like them in here, but if they don't know on the outside you like them, opportunity goes away. So even practical things like that, just learning how your smile looks makes them feel more confident.
Wow, you know, I love that. I love it.
Yeah. You know, Kim, you know Todd Pillars, I believe. I think he was at one of the functions where you were at. Todd's a certified go-giver speaker who also has a very, very successful career as a portrait photographer. And he had to be about a 30-minute session for us at one of our programs on smiling, on how to get the best, how to take the best picture. And a big part of it was the smile. He explained something called the Duchenne smile. And there's a science behind it about the different things you do that actually cause the smile to be authentic and to be right. And so, it just brings up what you're teaching them, Derrick, are just such phenomenal life skills for them to understand the importance of being able to smile and to practice it, it not to make it more than theory. And I just want to ask a question as we begin to wrap up. How can schools, how can teachers who have so much to do and do a phenomenal job, how can they bring some of this into their teaching? Or how can they set up these kids to have not just the academic skills, but a lot of these life skills that you talk about?
It's interesting. When I think about Christmases and Thanksgivings, it's typically when the best, most impactful teachers' names come out. And it's the smallest thing. Mrs. Smith, when she said this word to me, it changed my life. Or when Mr. Johnson challenged me with this, it just made me a better person. And one simple way to do this, because I know that teachers are stretched, they've got limited time. Many of them are experts in their subject matter field.
Exactly, yeah.
I would encourage teachers, maybe it's 30 seconds or a minute before each class or at the end of each class. Okay, guys, it's a life skills moment. Let's just stand up and go say hi to someone who you don't know well. and just say, using their last name with a nice, firm handshake and great eye contact, "It is so nice to see you." And just practicing those things can be so powerful. And, Bob, one thing I do want to mention, one of the things that parents desperately crave is communication with their teens. They just want to know, tell me something about your life so I feel like I'm part of it, okay? And one of the things that we slipped into this course that has gotten the rave reviews from parents is we teach the teen to tell their parents, hey, mom or dad, whoever they're living with, on Saturday morning, could we meet for 30 minutes? I just want to go over my week with you so that you know what's going on. I mean, there's been reports of parents having heart palpitations, having to be rushed to the hospital, fainting in disbelief. And what that does is it plays right into the know you, like you, trust you principle. Because when parents feel like, oh my gosh, I'm part of my teen's life, I know what's going on. Then if there's those moments where, you know what, Mom, could I please have an extra 30 minutes on the curfew? It doesn't guarantee it, but it builds up some currency in that parental love bank that says, you know what? Yeah, you can do that. You have earned that trust. And so when you do that with your parents, and then also asking this bonus, this is going to be even crazier, the bonus crazy question. Of all the chores that you're having me do this week, what is the most important thing you want to make sure I get done around the house? This might send them directly to the hospital.
Oh, yeah, I would have had a heart attack.
I'm asking the teens for a lot here, but those two things will dramatically improve the quality of your life while you live at home. And your parents will love it.
Wow,
Derrick
I love
Kinney.
it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Derrick Kinney is author of the bestseller Good Money Revolution, How to Make More Money to Do More Good. He's a former financial advisor who had a wonderful business, sold it, now taking that wisdom and applying it to so many people's lives, adults and teens both. His new project, visit simpleteensuccess.com. Get everybody involved in this. Don't keep this a secret, as our friend Bill Cates says, right, Jeff? Don't keep this a secret.
Right.
Get everybody involved in this. This is going to add so much value to the lives of your teens, your grand teens, the community, society as a whole. Our future leaders come out of groups like this where young kids are equipped. Kim and Jeff, before we brought Dennis on, we were, and beforehand, we had been talking about how, wow, something like this would have been so great when we were kids. Was this amazing? Is this just something that, yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you, Derrick, for equipping teens with a playbook, a plan. And I will be sending a lot of people your way.
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You are one of the most genuinely authentic, good people I
He
know.
is.
And
Yeah.
it's a joy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Bob, thank you. It was a pleasure to be with you today. I appreciate it.
Our absolute pleasure. And I just want to thank Joseph Lewin and his associate, Allison. Joseph is founder of Sell Through Social. He helps speakers and coaches grow their business through LinkedIn, through live shows on LinkedIn and YouTube. A live show is an easy way to start a conversation with the people you want to get to know. His team also assists clients in growing their YouTube and LinkedIn through video-based content services. He's my guy now. He's been doing some great work, and he's really fantastic. He's responsive, he's knowledgeable, he's always learning, and he's a joy to work with. So be sure to connect with him on LinkedIn, Joseph Lewin, Lewin, or go to sellthroughsocial.com. That's it for today's show. Thank you so much again to Derrick Kinney for joining us. He's awesome. Such fantastic wisdom. And of course, my great friends, Jeff West and Kim Angeli, thank you for joining us. I just want to wish my Christian friends throughout the world a wonderful upcoming Easter celebration and happy Passover that we just celebrated, my Jewish mishpacha and I. I just hope everyone has a fantastic week ahead, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks when we bring on Arlen Sorensen. And if you do not know Arlen, he is a guy you want to hear from. Thanks, everybody. Make it a fantastic day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.